Hi everybody, I'm Sandra, and this is the story on how my sister-in-law caused my miscarriage, but later on faced several consequences and regretted her actions. Let me just give you a rundown of everything that happened. I've been happily married to my husband for about 12 years, and his name is Nolan. I met Nolan in our senior year of high school, and ever since then, we've been practically inseparable. Nolan had a younger sister who was 3 years younger than us. Her name was Amelia. Amelia was super cool with me at first, but I could already tell from the first time that I'd met her that she wasn't actually happy about me. I wasn't quite sure why it seemed like she was like that, but I shrugged it off and forgot about it for a while. Soon, Nolan and I had graduated from high school. We spent the entire summer hanging out. We went on camping trips together, attended sports games, and we'd sometimes part so we could hang out with our individual friends. On rare occasions, we were forced to hang out with Amelia and her friends, aka babysitting. And although having to watch over Nolan's sister and friends was a little awkward, we still managed to make it a very fun experience. But as fall started, we went off to college. Unfortunately for the both of us, we attended colleges that were a little far away. And by far away, I mean almost across the country. But we were going to focus on our education above everything else. So in the effort to graduate successfully to eventually find a good job, Nolan and I stopped talking as much to get our studies done. I will be honest when I say that I was quite lonely for the years that I was at school, but before I knew it, I had graduated. It was finally time to go home, and I just couldn't wait to meet up with my boyfriend again after all these years. I soon bought a plane ticket and moved back to my hometown after packing all of my items. When I got home, I was pleasantly surprised by Nolan, who had arrived in town earlier than I did. I was ecstatic to be reunited with the love of my life. We decided to both see if we could find jobs around our families so they could be closer to us, and luckily, we found several. I was successfully able to find a job as a physical therapist, while Nolan became a web developer. Since his job was technology-related, Nolan worked from home, which was nice. Meanwhile, I went to the therapy center 4 times a week to work. We decided not to move in together yet, until we had accumulated a good amount of money, and were certain that we wanted to invest into a home together. And since we lived with our individual parents, Nolan and I were very close physically wise, and could see each other practically every day. One day, Nolan's mom Carly walked in on the two of us cuddling. She was wearing a very nice dress and had a purse in her arm.
Nolan, your father and I will be out of town for about 2 weeks. We both have business that we need to attend to, so we need to travel internationally. Your sister still can't drive yet, so I'm asking you to please drive her and her friends whenever she needs it.
Sure, Mom.
Thank you.
Amelia still hadn't gotten her license yet for whatever reason, so her parents still drove her around to places. But because her and Nolan's parents were out of town now, driving her would be mine or Nolan's responsibility. However, whenever Amelia and her friends needed a ride, they'd demand that Nolan take them, even when he was doing something very important for his work. I didn't think much of this because Nolan was her brother after all, but I didn't realize that the situation was going to spiral and become worse. It was very rare for Amelia to ask me to drive her. And whenever she did, she'd say some really strange things.
So, I was going through Nolan's room and found a red lipstick in his closet.
And? I think that's my lipstick. I must have left it by accident.
You sure he's not, seeing someone else?
What? What led you to that conclusion? Amelia was saying some weird stuff, and it was obvious that she was trying to prompt some thoughts in my head. I was very sure that the lipstick was mine, and that Amelia was just saying that for some weird reason. I didn't want to tell Nolan about it because I didn't want to start any drama between his family. Finally, Nolan and I decided that it was time to move in together. We found a pretty house that was about 30 minutes away from our homes. It was a good location since I was closer to work, but we were also close to family. Not long after this, Nolan proposed to me. I was so happy. We went from high school sweethearts to actually getting married now. Pretty soon, our family and friends found out and were all ecstatic, just like us. However, Amelia gave a fake smile that I noticed immediately, but everyone else didn't. Again, I decided to ignore her. She wasn't outwardly saying or doing anything to me, so I wasn't too concerned with her. Nolan and I had our wedding just a couple months after we were engaged. The ceremony was beautiful, and I could tell that I was going to be with Nolan for a long time. Amelia was one of my bridesmaids, and even though I caught a few sour glances from her, we had a fun time. Shortly after the wedding, I got pregnant, and Nolan and I have never been happier, especially since I'd been told by doctors that I had a low chance of getting pregnant. It was finally time to make a family of our own. Again, just like our engagement, everyone was excited for us to welcome our kid. And again, Amelia had this strange attitude about her that I couldn't quite lay my finger on. But this time, she was worse.
Do you ever think that you and Nolan jumped into this a little too quickly?
No. Why?
It's just that, it's a little unfair how you immediately just got into a relationship with my brother. There were so many prettier girls swooning for him before, but you basically just skipped the whole line.
Huh? What the hell was Amelia talking about? It absolutely made zero logical sense that Nolan has to go through a long list of his secret admirers first before dating me. I started to ask her for her logic on that, and to voice my own opinions, but Amelia suddenly walked away from the room. Well, she's upset, but I'll just let her be. 2 months had passed after I found out that I was pregnant. Nolan's parents invited Nolan and I over for dinner. We agreed happily, and Carly even revealed that Amelia and her best friend had helped prepare the dinner and were going to be at the home for dinner. I was a bit surprised that Amelia's best friend would be at dinner with us, but I didn't mind too much. At Nolan's parents' home, we were served some delicious food as well as juice. Nolan's parents talked to Nolan and me about what we were planning on naming the baby, how we were going to set up a routine so that we could both take care of it. We also took a lot of advice from Carly and her husband Jack, which was nice. Nolan and I thanked the family for welcoming us to such a nice dinner and then went home. A few more days went by and I started noticing strange things. Suddenly, I stopped having morning sickness. This was really weird since I've had the worst nausea in my entire life just the day before. As I went on through the day, I experienced even stranger things. My back started hurting painfully and there was blood in my underwear. What the hell? Why was I bleeding all of a sudden? I told my coworker what was happening, and she explained that I might be having a miscarriage. In a panic, I called my husband to ask him to book an appointment with my gynecologist. I couldn't believe that this was actually happening. Nolan picked me up from work early and we rushed to the healthcare center. Rushing inside, we found out from the doctor that I was going through a miscarriage. I was completely devastated at this news that I started bawling in front of both the gynecologist and Nolan. How could this have happened? Nolan quickly told his parents, who were both just as upset as I was. My family and friends found out too and tried hard to console me, but I'd just lost a baby I'd been told that would be very hard for me to conceive. This would have been the brightest gem in my life, the most priceless soul. But it didn't make it, and I didn't understand why. Nolan's parents started talking about my lost child excessively. They would talk about it over social media, with their friends and their coworkers. I think that they were just as saddened by this news, if not more. But it was a good thing that they obsessed over this. Because Carly and Jack talked about this not only online but in real life, Amelia quickly cracked under the pressure. She admitted to Nolan that she and her friend had actually given me piña colada with alcohol, even after promising that nothing in the drink had alcohol at all during dinner. And since I had a high risk of miscarrying, a few cups of the juice had caused me to miscarry. I couldn't believe it. It was my own sister-in-law that had killed my unborn baby. Amelia begged Nolan not to say anything to admit that it was just an unfortunate incident, but Nolan obviously told his parents. Carly and Jack were absolutely outraged. They began to scream at Amelia and her friend on how they were horrible humans for doing that to me. I told my parents the whole story of what happened as well, and they were very angered. As more and more people found out what had happened to me, and the true story behind it, Amelia also revealed more to me and Nolan. She decided to show up at our door one day out of nowhere.
Well, fine. Michaela has liked you since we were 13, but when you started to date Sandra, she got super jealous. She hasn't let go of you for years. So we decided to kill your baby to see if your relationship could fall apart so that Michaela would date you instead.
Amelia, are you actually insane?
That's so cruel of you! What the hell is wrong with you?
I'm telling Mom and Dad.
No, please don't. You guys can just make another baby. Michaela and I are really sorry about this.
We don't give a flying shit if you're sorry. Our baby is dead, Amelia, and this is all because of your infatuated little friend. Don't you know that it's hard for Sandra to conceive? That might have been our only chance, but you decided to be greedy and try to change the world for yourself.
I watched with teary eyes as Nolan shut the door in her face before he called his parents. From then on, I hadn't really seen Amelia much. I did hear that she's gotten quite infamous on Facebook due to Carly and Jack's love of oversharing on their social media. Nolan told me that his parents forbade her from ever getting near me again. I also hear that the number of friends she had has declined. Most of them were scared that she'd do the same to them. As for me, Nolan and I tried again and we were very lucky. I found out that I was pregnant with twins, and after a painful and long pregnancy, I gave birth to the most beautiful angels ever. Now at 36, I'm living my best life with my kids and a loving husband. Amelia's best friend also ended up marrying a different man, so all of that effort to hurt me really wasn't worth it. Carly and Jack had also cut off a lot of the financial access they let Amelia have, and then she had to find a job as well. Amelia is now married to a postman, and she has been trying for a baby for years now to no avail. Nolan believes that they could have gone harsher on his little sister. What do you think? Thanks for listening to my story.